welcome to Wrestling Art with Chris Things.
Ray! Do the hammer lock! I do the hammer lock! Ray! Do the hammer lock, you turkey necks! Yeah, do the hammer lock! I do the hammer lock!
Hi there, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Wrestling Art with Chris Things. I am Chris Things Brian, your host, your guide into the wrestling art world. I sometimes interview other wrestling artists from about the world. Sometimes talk about my art. Talk to pals about match of the week things. But this episode, guys, we have something special. So some could say that I just couldn't find anyone to talk to for an episode this week. Others might say that I came up with a really cool and interesting idea for a solo edition of the show this week. So what I'm looking to do here, I thought I'd wind the curtain back here for you. And do a little bit of a kind of process episode, take you behind the scenes and tell you what my process is, for these match of the week illustration artworks that I make. So I don't know, I thought that'd be interesting. Some of you might say, Chris, that is not that smart to do for an audio medium such as a podcast. Perhaps you could make a video of such a thing instead. I would say, look, mind your own bloody business, but yeah, okay, you're probably right. But I will plan on getting into a bit more, maybe some video tutorial kind of stuff, perhaps. In the future at some point, more so just some fun video kind of stuff for process. But yeah, I think for now, why not we see how we go with this in audio form. So I thought this might be interesting because I do get some people ask from time to time, how do you make the things that you do or whatever. So I thought, why not have a little bit of a chin wag. I generally, for the match of the week deals, obviously an important part of it is that it has to be my favourite match that I happen to watch that week. So most of the time I'm, consuming wrestling anyway. Most of the time there's something that I just happen to watch and I'm like, alright, shit, that is great. This has to be the match of the week. Other times it there is sort of like a bit of a self-guided, like, oh, maybe I'll watch a bit of this, maybe I'll watch a bit of that. I never really know exactly what the match of the week's going to be. Sometimes you're like, oh, this match would be, absolutely great for it. And then you watch it and it just doesn't quite feel, quite right for the match of the week. Generally, if I come upon it, great. If not, I eventually come across something and I'm like, all right, that is it. At that point, generally in my week, because always, when I get these posted on Friday morning in Australia time, most of the time, I'm going to be honest, I leave these things a little bit to the last minute, so Thursday is the action time. But so I'll go back most of the time to, if it's a match that I've, seen earlier in the week, I'll rewatch it. To pick out that exact moment. Sometimes you're watching a match and the exact moment, it just, comes to you right away. It's very obvious. Other times it's a real tricky thing, trying to pick that exact moment that kind of like speaks to me just in the right way, and I think, encapsulates the match in some way, or the emotion, or the whatever it is that made this match kind of like magical for me. I'll rewatch the match and try to pick out that moment at that point. Oftentimes I'll I'll take screenshots, as throughout, and these are sort of the ones I'm tossing up between, and then I'll like look at those screenshots, next to one another, and really try to pick out the one that really speaks to me in that way. This is kind of one of the hardest parts of the process, to be honest, the picking. And you're also trying to envision what's that illustration, what's it going to look like as an illustration. In my way that I like to do these things. So yeah, we got that. Once I pick the moment in question, generally of late I like to do these as either like a ballpoint pen drawing, or a ink a ink dip pen kind of deal, nib ink nib kind of drawing. So depending on how I'm feeling, I'll go one or the other. They all have to be. This is one of my weird things. They all have to be in my little little book that I have going at the time. So these books I find almost like a moleskin kind of book kind of deal. I need the paper to have a certain like kind of texture to it. I think that's kind of important to me. Um, and then yeah, I'll sit in front of the screen if I can. I'll have some nice music going, whatever, make it work. Sometimes we can already be getting pretty late at this point. It can be like 10 p.m. Sometimes when I'm doing this, but you got to get it done. So that's what I try to do here. I make sure no matter what, I'm going to get it done. So I'll sit down and I'll do the drawing part. And so like if it's a ballpoint pen, I love ballpoint pens because they allow you, to kind of like go around and almost like draft up your drawing, sort of lightly. I One of the things that I never do when I'm doing these match of the weeks is I'll never draw it like in pencil first, because I feel like that is, by the doing pencil and then tracing it in pen, it takes away a bit of the what's the word? Kind of like just the organic magic that kind of happens with the chicken scratchy kind of style that I've got. So I'll always do it with pen to start with, which can be kind of daunting, especially with the dip pen kind of way of doing it, because pretty well every mark you make with one of those, for the most part, is going to be pretty well visible on the final one. But yeah, the ballpoint pen can be a little bit more forgiving. But at the same time, like I like the idea of capturing a bit of that frenetic kind of energy. So the idea that every line isn't quite perfect. That's kind of what I'm going for. So by the time I finish that drawing, I'll get to a certain point. A big thing is like trying to work out when it's finished. Yeah, for any of y'all out there that might also be artists, you probably can sympathize here. One of the trickiest things about drawing or making any artwork, painting, whatever, it's about knowing when it's done and not overdoing it, because it can go very quickly to like, I just think it needs a little bit more, to like feeling like you've wrecked something. So that's a tricky point, knowing when that is. But whenever it is, you get to the point you're like, all right, let's here we go. I think we're finished up here. At that point, I take I scan it into the computer, and scan that into. I like to use Illustrator, Adobe Illustrator. I guess maybe this come from my graphic designer kind of background. When I came up in the graphic design world, it was all about Illustrator, InDesign, and Photoshop. But I prefer doing this in Illustrator over Photoshop, because Illustrator almost in some ways it's a little bit more limiting, at least in terms of some of the different more raster kind of effects and textures and stuff that you can get really nuts with. I like to sort of in a way keep these illustrations kind of simple, and all about the actual illustration and the color. So that's what we're up to now. You get it in, and it's about the coloring stage. I'll trace the illustration and turn it into a vector. And at that point, I will, yeah, that's when I start playing with colors. And that's probably the most exciting part of this whole deal, to be honest. The coloring bit, I really love that, and it's when almost like the illustration kind of comes alive. So sometimes I'll have like a preconceived notion of like, oh, I think these colors will work kind of good for it. Or there's some sort of like motif with the colors and the actual match. A lot of the time with the Noah kind of stuff, I try to work to a bit of a green kind of color scheme, the whole like Masawa emerald green kind of deal. With anything that's kind of like bloody, I generally like to use that kind of pinks for the blood, because it's just something so cool. I think about like bright, pretty magenta pink chewed bubble gum, as my dear pal Richard of Video Plant would say. But yeah, something I really love about that pastel pinks with the blood, making the blood pretty, But other times it's just about a bit of an experimentation. You just have to, play around with the colors. I'll often, part of the coloring, you have to sort of like, either physically sort of like color in the different areas and have them on different layers. That way I have the ability to sort of like flip through different colors and see how one color works with another, etc. um and I do this part on the computer with a Wacom and a Wacom pen. I could never start an illustration with as a digital illustration on a Wacom. I have mad respect for people that can, but I need to start in a tactile way. I think I think the ability to do that, like Control Z or undo when you get to that stage, is too I don't know. For me, like I want to capture the mistakes a little bit, and if I have the ability to have everything too perfect, it's just not me. So yeah, I'd say sort of get those colors right. That can be another part where it gets quite frustrating. Um, Sometimes you feel like a color scheme is really close to working, but just not quite working. Or there's just something about it that's completely wrong, or you have to be like, have a look at different accent colors, or completely just change it up. You could be like going for one color scheme in your head, and you're just like, this isn't working. What color will offer a better contrast or better sort of like complementing nature with the other stuff going on. So a lot of the time it's just playing around. Like the way I approach color schemes, I sort of want things to clash a little bit. I think that's what makes playing around with colors kind of interesting. Everyone can sort of like come up with color schemes where if you look at a color wheel and you follow the exact color theory, you can get it to look all nice. But I like to have stuff look a little bit wrong, or make someone feel like they're on a little bit of an acid trip or something. So that's sort of part of it too. Not all of them are like that. I have some that are a bit more, end up more subdued, sort of like color schemes. Some that are a bit more funky. And I guess that just depends on your mood, maybe. I don't know. I don't think I've ever spoken this much about my approach to color theory, so hopefully there's some interesting stuff in here for you. But yeah, again, similar to the actual you know, drawing part, hand drawing part that I was talking about earlier, knowing when to sort of like just put a pin in it and say, all right, I could keep playing around with changing these colors for hours longer, but at a certain point we have to just be like, okay, it's done. Another thing, when I'm in that coloring phase and the tracing and the coloring in and all that, I always like to put on some nice music. I think music is such an important thing to setting a tone that sometimes an illustration or artwork can can draw out. I think everything that you're putting in comes out in the finished product in some way. But yeah, so eventually you get to the point where you're just like, okay, this just has to be it, and you make a decision and you say, all right, that's it, and you have to stand by it. Oftentimes this is pushed as well by the time I get to this stage. Oftentimes it's like 12:30 a.m., 1 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes a little bit later, depending on how late when I've started. Sometimes a bit earlier if I've pre-planned a bit better. But I think I'm a bit of a last minute make the magic kind of happen kind of guy. So yeah, that's pretty well it. At that point, I'll save it off, export it, and send the picture of that to my phone. And then I kind of make a bit of a thing, a bit of a tradition out of the posting element of it. So again, every Friday morning here in Australia, it might be Thursday afternoon, Thursday evening for those of you all in America. I'll post this artwork on my Instagram. I'll post on my website, and I come up with the caption, to go with it to explain what it was I loved about the match. Sometimes add like these kind of like artist notes that I'm adding to it of late, and I I actually really enjoy that process, and I create a bit of a same sort of thing where I try to do it from the same place. So I go with the dogs out to there's this little bagel cafe that we got in the Tenerife area here in Brisbane. I go for it. There's a nice little river walk around there, and I like to just sit there with my black coffee and with my bagel and write up the wording to go with this. And again, to sort of like put into words, what my thoughts were, and I think that stuff's important. I know there's probably a lot of people that don't even read the captions, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine. You can consume this however you want to consume it. But I really do appreciate the people that do read it, um, and that's why I do put a bit of effort into that wording. I wanted to be able to try to let you know what this about this was special to me. Um, and then if that results, I have so many lovely people from time to time that tell me that this got them into a different wrestling rabbit hole, or they didn't know about this kind of like type of wrestling that this might be part of, or even exposing people to just the magic of Terry Funk. A good amount of Terry Funk matches on there by now. Yeah, I think that's pretty well it. I really enjoy doing this thing. The idea of having a weekly, new bit of art that I push myself that I have to do every week, has been a really cool thing, and I'd highly recommend it. Regardless of whether you're making that available for public consumption, just having like a weekly habit where you're forcing yourself to do something creative, every week. It really, I don't know, it's a nice thing, especially if you enjoy making the art, which hopefully is what this is all about. So yeah, I don't know. Hopefully you guys found that interesting. I thought it'd be a nice idea to do now that we're bloody I think it'll be like 60, 59 or 60 matches down this as of the end of this week. But yeah, I love doing it, guys. So yeah, I always appreciate everyone's comments as well. And I so very much appreciate anyone that goes out and buys these things. Who goes to christhings.com.au and plonks down some cash and buys himself a fancy little Chris Things art print. Match of the week or any of my artworks, I always appreciate it. But those are available from as little as 25 bones with free delivery. Oh my gosh. I also have the original pen drawings available as well if anyone ever wants those. I always am so appreciative when people do purchase those. But yeah, we also got the book, Chris Things Match of the Week Year 1, the first 52 of these bad boys, along with those captions out in book form now. Again, thank you so much for everyone who supported that. And yeah, thank you to you guys who listen to this thing every week or every other week or whenever you feel like listening to it. Hopefully this is a interesting little departure from our regular kind of thing. And I'm planning I've planted some seeds, guys. I'm hoping I'll have another wrestling artist episode for you in the near future. Looking forward to that. And yeah, we'll be back at it with more of our match of the week action with some of my dear friends of the show. So thank you again, everyone, for listening. Thank you to the great team at Social Suplex that makes this thing work. Socialsuplex.com, the place for this podcast and a variety of other rad wrestling podcasts from One Nation Radio, Keeping It Strong Style, the Trish and Sarah podcast, Tunnel Talk, Imp's WWE Adventure, all things elite, for a variety of things. There's all sorts of stuff over there. So Social Suplex, thanks dudes, and yeah, I think that's us. I think that's us for this episode here. little mini snack size, bite size episode here. But I do enjoy these ones where I get to just talk to you guys directly, you know? I think of you guys as my friends. If someone is that willing to listen to me talk at them for this extended amount of time on any sort of regular basis, I'm very appreciative, and I count you as a friend. So thank you very much. Feel free to flip me a message whenever you want. But yeah, and I'm stoked. We have just announced a new wrestling club event coming up. We'll finish the episode on this. It's going to be the first week of December, the first Wednesday of December, back at the Scratch. So stoked to be bringing this thing back. We made it all the way to December, guys. And I'm very excited to be putting together another weird and wonderful playlist of wrestling together. And I look forward to that. And I look forward to everyone that comes along. Hopefully get to have a bit of a chat. And yeah. Well, I think that's about it. But thanks again, team. And I will see you next week. Bye.
I do the hammerlock. Do the hammerlock, you turkey necks. Yeah, do the hammerlock. I do the hammerlock. Everybody's doing it. Do the eye gouge. Yeah, do the eye gouge. Do the eye gouge, you turkey necks. Yeah, do the eye gouge. I do the eye gouge. Everybody's doing it. Okay, you turkey nuts. Gather around.
Oh, hang on. I almost forgot something here. This past week was my birthday. So I just wanted to say a big old thank you to everyone that sent me a nice little birthday message. Everyone who came out and enjoyed the festivities, and especially all you folks that gave me a little special present. Yeah, it's weird to think that I am now I guess 38 years old. Nearing the drain hole of 40, but I think things are going in the right direction as I look at my life and get close to that middle-aged kind of place. I think I'm about as close as I've ever been to doing what I really want to do with my life. So let's hope it can continue. I'm pretty stoked about what I'm doing at the moment, and yeah, I'm excited about the future. But thank you, everyone, for joining me along the ride. All right, had to get that in there. I can't be talking about my birthday 2 weeks later. All right, see ya.